We are both in studio. I know we had a couple choppy weeks there, but from now until you win your championship, yes, you're going to win. Namco and Dustin, both in studio. Week 13 here. Dustin, let's just get right into them quarterback rankings.
Week before the playoffs in most leagues. Lots of tough decisions this week, and one of the hardest people to figure out in all of fantasy, not just quarterback, is Aaron Rodgers. Sub 200 passing yards in 2 of the last 3 games. And you look at a matchup, okay, at home against Green Bay.
They are Green Bay.
Or at home against Arizona, thank you, and Green Bay. You got to think, okay, that could be a decent one. I mean, Arizona, but game script would say defense and running the ball could win this game, and they're favored by 14 points, and maybe they get up early. He doesn't have to pass a ton. He scares me this week. I'm starting a lot of other quarterbacks over Aaron Rodgers this week. It's tough. We got him at 13.
Him and Brady aren't must starts now.
It's tough.
Weird.
It's weird. There's a shift. It's weird.
But if you own this guy, you're still starting Rodgers and Brady over him. That's Lamar Jackson, and I get the excitement for him. I mean, heck, who more than us say we love the running quarterbacks? 10 rushing yards typically equals 25 passing. Dustin does all the math for you. Makes a lot of sense to have those running quarterbacks. I mean, why does this guy love? Who do you love?
Trubisky and Dak.
Who did you used to love that ran a lot?
I don't remember. Oh, Tebow.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
All right, so Lamar Jackson's like a good version of Tebow is the way that I look at it. Yes, I said it, Dustin. Dude, Tebow was never going to be good. I think Lamar could be good, but I think people are overhyping his rushing just because that first game he had 26 or 27 attempts for like $119, so it was ridiculous. Last week, they scaled it back quite a bit. Only 11 rushes, but it was for 71 yards. He did get a touchdown. He also got a passing. So I think he can put up some numbers, but he's getting about 20. He's averaging 20 the last 2 weeks. I think he does that again, about 20 points. But the X factor here is the 2 running backs. Collins probably won't play. Gus, my boy Gus might not play. If Gus doesn't play, that makes it really scary for Lamar. So, you know, he can be rostered in leagues, but he's not like I'm not starting him over the likes of Rodgers and Brady, even though they haven't been playing well.
You see who we had up there at 8? Come on, Dak. Do it one more time. Let's go over to running backs. I want to talk about number 12, Phillip Lindsay. Now, this is a guy that, if you picked him up, you have loved owning him on your team, but every week it's still kind of like, I see him all the time in flex questions.
Yeah.
It's still not, it just doesn't feel like a must-start guy, kind of like an Aaron Jones type guy that's been coming on, or a Chubb. But he needs to be right there in the same discussion, especially this week. Going up against the Bengals, you got to think they're going to be playing with a lead potentially. 5 total touchdowns in his last 5 games. He's in your lineup if you own him.
Gonna talk about Gus. He was my pickup of the week when I was doing the waiver wire show for the boss over here. Even though I couldn't say that because Dustin didn't let me. But Gus has looked really good. I just talked about him. I was talking about Jackson. He is a little bit banged up, but I do think he plays. I think it's his job the rest of the way. I mean, there's no reason he should be on the wire, but if he is, obviously you're scooping him. And we have him as a top 15 play this week. Now we're ranking him like he's going to be 100% healthy, not be limited. Last week, 23 rushes, $118, and he really passes the eye test. Coaches are talking highly of him. I really like Gus Edwards again this week.
Moving on to the next 20, Tevin Coleman at 28. He has been so disappointing since taking over for Freeman. And if it wasn't for a passing touchdown catch that he had at the very end of that Atlanta game last week, he would have had an awful week. He just hasn't looked good. And now he's got a tough matchup against Baltimore. It's tough. He's benchable this week, in my opinion. There's not even a volume debate because Smith's factoring in so much. Tevin Coleman, scary start this week.
34, I'm talking about Blunt. I don't want to see a bunch of questions about Blunt. We said that Blunt would be a good play with Carry-On out last week, and he did great. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, over 20 points, and like a half-point PPR. But prior to that, he was getting like 1, 2, that's it. Not even like 3. 1 or 2 points. He was doing terrible. Carry-On's probably going to play this week. Do not be asking me, should I be starting Blunt over a guy like Lindsay or Gus or whoever? We have him ranked here as such. Yes, he could always fall into the end zone, but last week is by far the best week he will have all year. And we did tell you to start him because he was a pickup play.
I don't think Carry-On plays, just for the record. But even though, they're still not that exciting.
Even if it doesn't, I think Theo Riddick's going to get more involved. That's the best game we saw out of Blunt all year.
It's possible. So Brent needs to pat himself on the back here for a minute.
You should be patting me on the back.
I'm not patting you for nothing. He won the FanDuel
Champion! Victory!
But that was the last week we were running it. We hadn't been getting very many people from we were opening up to the public a couple hours before, and that's when we were filling it up. So we weren't getting a ton of interest, but Brent got the last one.
Got a dub!
But click the link in the description and sign up and play some FanDuels if you haven't already been playing. Thanks to everyone who has been playing.
Yeah, appreciate them.
It was a lot of fun. We'll still be doing some lineups, but we won't be having the Experts League. But get in the FanDuel. Wide receiver, Amari Cooper. What a game for him last week. It's really been a great fit. You know, everyone gave Dallas such a hard time for what they gave up to get Cooper, but, I mean, it's
Jerry's
working.
laughing.
It's working, and they have a really good chance of making the playoffs at this point. They got a tough matchup this week going up against New Orleans, though, and the blow-up potential for Cooper is certainly there in what could be somewhat of a high-scoring game. It is a Thursday night game, so we'll see, but the Thursday night games have been a little bit better this year. So Cooper, we got him just outside our top 10.
And Lattimore's going to shadow him, but he's still been so good. Number 20, Julian Edelman. I love me some Julian Edelman. I always have. And, you know, since he came back, he's been back for a little while now, but the targets have been on the rise. 10, 4 weeks ago. 10, 3 weeks ago. 12, 2 weeks ago. Last week, he had 5, but he got 4 of them. He's been looking good. Tom Brady's been looking at him. He is clearly a wide receiver, too, even in standard settings. We do our rankings really based on half point. If you're in a PPR league, he should be in your lineup.
Next 20, I'm going to talk about Corey Davis. Great game for him last week as well.
Yeah.
but he really only, when you're looking at his game log, he really only has, he's had 3 really good games this year and then a lot of mediocre games. You look at this game, over-unders 41, Tennessee's favored by 8 points. You know, this could be a running defense type game, so he's still starting for you in a lot of leagues. He's still a solid flex option. He still has big play potential. He still has a high upside this week. But don't overreact after the big game and start putting him in over guys you wouldn't normally. We still like his upside, just not putting him over any studs.
Yeah, and talk about not overreacting. Larry Fitzgerald at number 29. I know since Leftwich came in, he's been getting more targets. David Johnson's looked better. He's looked a little bit better. But he hasn't been doing insane things. I mean, I think Father Time's finally caught up with Larry Fitzgerald to a degree. He's much better than he was pre the offensive coordinator change. But, you know, he's like a double-digit type of guy in a half-point PPR, which is okay. You know, he's a wide receiver 3. He's kind of like you're hoping for 70 and a touchdown. That's his absolute upside, it feels like to me. I just think his ceiling's a lot lower now.
And if you got lineup questions, post them in this video. We try to get to as many as we can. We get to a lot of them on the weekends. Post them in this video. We'll try to help you out and also help out other people if you see questions that you feel good about answering. Tight ends, I want to talk about number 5, Eric Ebron. Doyle's out of the way. Luck has looked great. Luck loves his tight ends. And Eric Ebron has 12 touchdowns already this year. I know he's at Jacksonville. It's a little scary, I guess, on paper, but Jacksonville's D is not nearly what it used to be. And Luck has just looked amazing. We're starting Ebron with confidence.
Number 8. I've had a couple people ask me who should they pick up for their tight end. They wanted to drop like Cook and other people. And I said Everett. Everett for the Rams. He might be the biggest beneficiary of the Cup injury. And, you know, in that insane shootout that we saw, he had 4 targets, caught 3 of them, about 50 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. I would rather, with tight ends being such a mess this year, I'd rather have a tight end on such a high-powered offense than a tight end that I think will get a couple more targets on a weaker offense. So he's right inside our top 10. We got him at number 8 this week.
Moving on to defense, there's a lot of interesting matchups this week and next week just in terms of decent defenses playing bad teams. So there's a decent amount of options.
Stop. Why are you talking about next week? Why would you be looking at next week's defenses right now?
I'm just saying in general.
No. The reason he's talking. There you go. If you have a guy, go ahead.
All right, so I
try to tee it up for the boss.
Jeez. In some leagues, I have 3 defenses right now because I'm planning out my defenses for the rest of the year. They're starting for you. your bench guys aren't. So, depending on if you want to handcuff or lock up all your defense spots, this is the time to do it. But Kansas City, I like this week at number 3. They've given up the 5th most points so far this year, which you don't like, but they're playing with the lead a lot. They're forcing other teams to throw. They are top 3 in sacks. So your defense has a lot more chances to score points when you're forcing the other team to throw the ball. You get chance for pick six, you get chance for the sacks, and that's what KC has done. Even that game where they gave up like 50 points to the Rams or whatever it was, they still had a solid defensive week in terms of fantasy. So I like them as a top 3 this week against Oakland. I think they have a good chance at a blow-up game.
Number 10, I want to talk about the Colts, and that's just, again, first thing I want to highlight is stupid Leonard Fournette. Killed me all year. You come back, and I'm loving you, and then you get into some dumb fight, and you get suspended. So I'm annoyed with you again. And so the Colts D, they're actually a decent run defense, and since they're not facing Fournette, I don't see them, if you're in a league where it's like heavy on sacks and big points off turnovers, I don't see them doing that. However, I do see them keeping the Jags on not too many points. Vegas has this as a 47 over and under. I'm actually going to take the under for Gambling Nameco, but I just feel that the Jags aren't going to put up a ton of points, and the Colts run defense is actually pretty good, so they're going to force them to throw, and we all know who's a quarterback there.
So that is week 13. Leave some questions if you got them. Subscribe, like the video, do all that fun stuff. And good luck.
I won FanDuel. Yes.
You did win FanDuel.
I was so happy.
I was happy for you. I was.
We needed to get a dub.
We did.
We needed a dub.
We had a lot of close calls.
I know, but we needed a dub. It was ugly.
So to get that one.
It was ugly.